And welcome back to a fresh episode of Business Growth Show. I'm your host, Sam Dunning, co-owner over at webchoiceuk.com. And if you haven't done so yet, check out our weekly emails where I share actionable website, SEO and marketing tips, useful goodies, podcasts, and more. Why not give it a shot over at businessgrowth.emails. So joining me today, I've got Jamie Pagan. Jamie's the marketing director over at Selligence. Jamie, welcome to the show, sir. How are we doing?
Hello, thank you. Yeah, it was a brilliant introduction. It's kind of showing me up on my usual introductions that I do on my episodes. But yeah, great to be here.
No worries, man. Got to get a bit of a buzz, bit of excitement, because until the show I was half asleep, so it's about time I woke up. But that said, we're going to be talking today on a fresh topic. We're going to be talking about sales triggers and how in B2B they can supercharge your marketing efforts. New topic for the show, so looking forward to diving into the ins and outs of sales triggers. So first and foremost, Jamie, what the heck is a sales trigger?
Okay, it's nice and simple. So try not to worry too much. So sales triggers is basically a range of events that happen, triggering an opportunity for business change. So they can be known as sales triggers, trigger events, event triggers, market triggers. Basically tons of names floating around depending on what sort of industry you work in. But as a B2B marketer, or whether you're in B2B sales, it's a great indication that business is going to go through a degree of change in the next 3 to 6 months, which is why they can be so valuable.
Got it. Okay. And are they specifically focused around business change, or is there quite a number of things they can impact?
There's an exhaustive list of triggers. We track 116 just to give you an example of the sort of the breadth of it, and within each of those 116 you've got subcategories as well. So I think we're going to run through some of the top ones, and I think you'll get an indication of sort of how useful they can be, varying degrees, of course.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll jump into some of the key ones and how you can actually use those insights and data to drive leads, drive sales leads, and drive revenue for your B2B company. But why are sales triggers important? Why should companies be considering looking at them?
I think, as I said, whether it's marketing or sales, one of the biggest issues or the age-old problems is knowing when to reach out or when to target prospects, right? You could spend a lot of money targeting prospects at the wrong time. I think I saw a stat the other day that says the average B2B buying journey is circa 300 plus days now, from the first point at which they know about you to the point at which it's closed won. That's a hell of a long time. So by having these triggers at hand, it means that you can try and target them at the opportune moment with a message that is relevant to the business change that they are likely to be going through in the next 3 to 6 months. So triggers can basically help with that timing and relevancy of the message as well.
Nice. And are they a fairly recent thing? Because like you say, Jamie, B2B typically sales cycles often depending on kind of the ticket size, so how much of an investment your offer, your solution, your technology is, and then how many decision makers it might take to be involved in the process can impact sales cycle, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, a month, a year to actually make the deal get over the line. A sales trigger something that's been around for a long time, or are they something that's come into play fairly recently? Because I haven't heard of them probably up until a few months ago, I think.
I think the triggering events themselves have obviously, they're actually, when we get into it, you'll realize the triggering events are stuff that you'll know about already. I think what's coming around in perhaps the last 6 to 12 months is actually the value in tracking them and how they can help you reach out with relevancy and at the right time. So I think the perception of their value is relatively new, but they've always been around.
Got it. Understood. Well, let's dive in. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's talk about some of the key sales triggers that B2B organizations should be looking at and the impact they can have on your business.
Brilliant. So we do have, as I said, an exhaustive list of 116 that we could go through. I've picked top 10. If we can get through them, great, but we'll run down the list. So the first one is key person change. So this is exactly what it says on the tin. Someone changes their job title on LinkedIn. It gets tracked as a key person change. Let's just hypothetically say PayPal lose their head of compliance to Sky. then that is a key person change that may indicate that that business is going to be investing in compliance related technology in the coming months. Key person change, just to give you a bit of a fact, the average is in the first 100 days of a C-suite or senior leader moving into a role, they spend 70% of their budget. So if you're tracking that trigger, right, that person's moved into that roles. In the next 100 days, they're going to be big. So this is a great opportunity for me to reach out to the head of compliance and say that I can help them ramp up as quickly as possible.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if, like you say, they've got 70% of their budget is typically what they are ready to spend. In terms of outreach, is that something that we should cover after we've gone through some of the key triggers, or is there like a best practice that we can talk about when it comes to actually enabling your team to reach out because we've had that trigger? We've seen that that's happened within that organization.
I think logically let's do it is per trigger. So key person change, someone moves into a role, the outreach is going to be sort of tailored in terms of the messaging. It's like, you think about the head of compliance, that example, they're going to be under pressure in the first few months, perhaps the first 2 to 4 weeks. They're going to be getting their feet under the table, they're going to be assessing, just observing. And it's in month 2 and month 3 where a bulk of that, right, I need to scope out where there's gaps, I need to look at new tech. And you often find people who move to a company will actually bring the tech that they had at their previous company with them. So again, it's a slightly different nuance to that trigger. If you've got a customer champion and they move to a new role, you haven't necessarily lost them because you can pitch them at their new company. So there's a slight nuance there.
Got it. And in terms of marketing, is there anything you tend to do with this data from a marketing perspective, whether it's kind of serving them ads or, I don't know, looking at some kind of unusual campaign that can impact them because they have had that job change?
Yeah, I think that in terms of, let's just take ads as the example. I think you could almost think of it as a retargeting campaign, but except that they've changed role in the last 90 days. You could have a 90-day layer of ads that are talking to people who have moved into a new role recently. And then it feels like hyper-personalized messaging, which, as we all know, can yield way, way higher results than, bone cold outreach. And you've got to think about is well, you're going to be far more open to new technology or technology that you've used previously in that scenario. So you might be clicking on a lot more ads than you might have previously been engaged with if you've been at a company 4 or 5 years with existing processes and systems. So it's a great window to target people.
And do you find from your experience that these prospects that have recently changed roles get much in the way of advertisements or actual sales outreach? Is it quite often your team will reach out to them and they'll find that they're being hounded, or is it quite a nice opportunity because it's quite the opposite and actually they're quite happy to receive some form of outreach or sales call or marketing collateral?
To be honest, like we were sort of alluding to, I think it's becoming a bit more fashionable. The key person change trigger itself is becoming a lot more well-known and fashionable. So you do often find, like I changed my job title on LinkedIn a few months back, just a promotion, and the number of outreaches I had off the back of that promotion was quite surprising. So in all honesty, like just a bit of advice, don't reach out initially. Like, just because a triggering event has fired, it doesn't mean you should reach out straight away. There's obviously a skill in knowing that event has fired. The optimal time to reach out is not the next day, because they're probably going to be getting 20 emails from people who are trying to sell or market to them with ads.
Lost in 1,000 LinkedIn messages.
Yeah.
Destined for the graveyard. Cool, man. Let's move on to the next trigger.
Okay, so this is a very well-known one, funding rounds. I mean, we talk about, Crunchbase, big name, but funding rounds have been around for ages. So a company goes out for financing, raises money from investors in exchange for a quantity of the company. The chances are that funding has taken place because they're looking to grow out a particular area of the business. They're looking to expand into a new region. Let's just take an example of you've seen big success in the UK. You raised 90 million to expand into the US. Now, when you've got that big influx of money, there's obviously a lot of pressures in terms of, right, we've given you that money, we want to see the numbers come in. Typically, that means you're going to be spending money on new tools, new people, hiring candidates. So it's a great opportunity to reach out to offer your services to help in that growth period. Again, I will say, if someone gets funding, Lavender, this is a great example. They got funding and they said they had about 100 emails the very next morning. Don't reach out the day of people getting funding. It's the worst time to do it, but put it in the bank. Triggering event has fired. They're going to be spending money or hiring new people in the next 3 to 6 months. So that's the second trigger.
And any nice ways that you suggest people reach out rather than just congrats on the funding round, here's my offer, book a demo?
Honestly, I would get creative with it. So they're going to get, as I said, 100 emails saying, congrats on the raise, congrats on the 100 million raise. We can help you. I would just have fun with it. Say, I don't know, I'm sure you've had 100 emails, so I'll cut right to the chase. Short and sweet, something like that. Or 90 million, or funding rounds are great. I'd imagine the pressure's ramped up. Let me help with the pressure. Be really conversational, informal with it. And I think that's what's going to help you stand out. GIFs, videos, send them a voice note on LinkedIn, even joking that they've probably had 100 emails already about the funding round. So just try and get creative with it.
I like it. Cool. That's number 2. What have we got up next, sir? So
number 3, IPOs. So I guess this is kind of similar to funding in a way. So initial public offering, this refers to an event where it can lead to the sale of company shares. So a private company would offer its shares to the public for the first time, allowing investors to buy a stake in the company. Now, in terms of what that tells you, there's sort of 3 sort of key things. Company performance. Obviously, IPO suggests the company's doing pretty well. Second would be market conditions. So shifts in consumer behaviors or economic trends can also impact a company, leading them to IPO. If there's a successful IPO, that would suggest there's significant interest in the company's services. With a stronger backing, it's likely set for new growth. So you imagine you have a successful IPO. Chances are it's going to be an interest in 12 to 24 months following that. Big targets, big growth aspirations. And then I think the third is probably that investor sentiment. So you think if there's it heavily indicates that an investors are confident. In short, a lack of interest in the IPO suggests that the company could be on a bit of shaky ground, and they've IPO'd, I don't know, try and get some cash in the door from more public investors. So you can determine a lot from the success of an IPO in terms of how well the company's doing, and what's going to be happening to that company over the next 12 to 24 months, as I said. Quite easy to track. Obviously, if you've got a platform that does it, great, but Google alerts, company pages, press releases, chances are you're probably going to see it on LinkedIn as well. So you're sort of your standard channels.
Yeah. And I guess, like you say, it's a similar kind of thing to funding. It's showing business success, it's showing business change, it's showing growth's happening. So it makes sense to reach out and see if there's a gap for your offer or the problem your solution fixes.
Exactly, yeah.
Nice. Okay. Let's proceed on to number 4.
Expansion plans. So this is essentially when a company would announce expansion plans. So a number of factors can come into play. In short, it's kind of saying if a company is growing in whatever manner that may be, it's indicating the growth in terms of, I think, new team or unit, team growth, regional growth, business area, general expansion. All of those are going to require HR management tools, for example, from a candidate perspective. If they're expanding, in terms of like offices, you think about the physical space, the buildings, the stuff that goes into those offices. Yep. So when a company says, look, we're looking to expand our headcount, great. I mean, as a recruiter, fantastic. As a marketer, great. You're planning to add 100 new people in the next 12 months. How are you onboarding them? How are you training them? Do you need, a HR management tool that you don't currently have? All those sorts of indications come into play when a company announces an expansion plan.
Yeah, and how that sounds a little bit trickier to track unless it's been announced. How would you understand that a company's going through that?
So I would say Google Alerts is probably the most common. So in terms of like phrases like company plans to expand as a phrase, or announces new office would be another phrase that you could sort of set up. So, let's use the PayPal example. PayPal announces new office in Cardiff. Great. If you're a recruiter in that area, fantastic. If you're marketing, and you focus on the UK, then great. It's a opportunity for you to start tracking that company or start targeting that company. You can also look at RSS feeds, company press release pages if you want something a bit more manual. But as I say, Google Alerts with certain key phrases, they always use the same phrase when companies announce expansion plans. So you can kind of get those set up.
Yeah. Sounds good. Cool. And we go to number 5.
So this leads on quite nicely, actually. So number 5 is new office. I don't need to tell you what a new office announcement is. That's nice and simple. But there are varying sort of levels of new office. So you've got headquarters, office, branch, center of excellence, R&D and tech hubs, for example, data centers, and each one of those is going to tell you something slightly different. So if we take the center of excellence, which is slightly different, it tends to be a shared facility where a focus goes to best practice, research and development, operations managers, that sort of stuff. So it's a great opportunity for referrals. R&D tech hub, you think the number of opportunities if they're spending a good few million on a new R&D and tech hub for people who might be marketing, I don't know, physical products in terms of printing machines. A good example, I think, is you think Tesla, right? When Tesla opened a new gigafactory, fantastic opportunity for you to start thinking about reaching out from a sales perspective, targeting to try and fuel that pipeline from a marketing perspective as well. So the R&D tech hub, designated for research and development for improved products, services, or processes. A new hub will need the best solutions in place to allow them allow for innovations and creativity. So it's usually a sizable investment in a short space of time.
Got it. So there seems to be a bit of a theme so far on the 5 we've had out of the 10. A lot of them are around expansion, growth, and similar. Are there any that are a bit going in the opposite direction? Are they ever problem based? Are they ever like, oh, we can see you've had this kind of issue, and that you might tell me the other 5 actually do involve all this?
Well, number 6, funnily enough, is non-compliance. So to your point, there definitely are a large chunk of sales triggers that suggest that a company is either not doing as well as it could be, or they're in a sticky situation, or that sort of stuff. So non-compliance, pretty simple. Investigated by a regulator, investigated for data privacy failures, investigated for a Section 166 fines. That's a great one if a company's been fined. This is like you said, it's quite a good one, because if you're a recruiter who recruits for compliance, we'll use that example again, then it's a great opportunity to try and place a new director of compliance in a company that's just been fined for a lack of procedure in compliance. Same for marketing. If you have a SaaS-based compliance platform, great opportunity for you to start targeting. Now, if a company, I will say, if a company's been fined, that's probably too late to be starting to market to them, because they essentially have a very, very short period of time to fix that issue. Like, you're talking within 30 to 60 days, they're going to want to have new staff in place or new procedures in place. So it's you want to probably focus on the investigation side of it. So if someone's being investigated, that would be a good time, because obviously they probably haven't made any plans in terms of, wow, we've just got a large fine, we better sort it out. So that would be probably focus on the investigatory side of things with that one.
Yeah, I'd imagine you have to tread quite carefully when approaching these companies that are perhaps going through, depending on how severe the issue is and the impact it's having on their business or employees or revenue, whatever. You don't want to call them straight away and just say, Oh yeah, I see you got like you're about to get $100,000 fine or whatever it might be, and I see you've conducted this malconduct or misconduct rather. You don't want to
Yeah.
piss them off on the first outreach, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. You're not going to say, "Oh, hi, Bob. Commiserations on the 20 million fine you've just had." Anyway, we can help. But I think again, like at the end of the day, if a company is in that sort of situation, then they absolutely will be looking to remedy it. So that's probably quite an interesting one where you're in a situation where almost like when someone's broken their bones, they need someone to set the bone, right? So the doctors in that situation are very similar to people who are going to be offering their services to help mitigate those sort of compliance risks. So it's have some tact with it, but at the end of the day, they're going to be needing a service or product.
I guess a lot of it is around timing, like you say, because if you're too late, then they've probably already sorted it out. Just getting it right with that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think, like I said, try and focus probably more on when they're at the point of being investigated. You might actually just get an announcement of the breach ahead of that investigation being announced. So again, have a look at the breaches. That would be a great trigger to look at. And to be honest, I wouldn't have thought too many people will be tracking that sort of stuff in terms of, because like you said, a lot of people are probably focusing on the really nice positive things, but there's a big opportunity to be had on the negative side of things.
And the thing is, people move from pain a lot faster than they move towards goals or pleasure or those kind of things. So
yeah,
I'm guessing
I hate that it's a lot easier and a lot more, or you get a lot more value for money out of pain points, because it'd be nice for it to be positive, right? Like to not have to speak to pain points, but it's I think someone used the metaphor before. It's like it's easier to sell someone a new pair of shoes if the shoes are rubbing, that sort of metaphor. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, fair play. Okay, let's move on to number 7, sir.
Again, quite a nice, let's say, negative one. Not nice negative one, but negative. So legal dispute. So it refers to a conflict or disagreement between two or more parties that arises from a business-related matter, and that's going to require resolution through legal means. So any company facing a legal dispute will be looking to tighten up on its procedures. So we sort of talked about the procedures previously, but the outcome of a legal dispute could have significant consequences for the parties involved, financial penalties, damages. So, a company facing legal action is a kind of tarnished reputation to a degree. So it's reassuring clients and investors will be top of the to-do list. So, they might look to bolster, let's say, certain things to reassure investors and clients. And then if you go sort of down to the other end of loses a legal battle, bad news for a company in this situation, obviously, but they'll be facing a costly bill, but also damage to the reputation. So you think, okay, they're facing a costly bill. Are there going to be cost-cutting implications here? If you're a tool that is undercuts your competitor in the market, and you can also apply a filter to say that company who's gone through a legal dispute uses one of your competitors, good opportunity to start targeting with some price-based ads, for example. That would be a nice sort of highly targeted, hyper-personalized approach.
Got it. And in terms of these last two we've discussed, so the non-compliance and legal disputes, I'm guessing the best approach there is more sales-led rather than trying to feed them marketing content or ads or things like that. Because I'd imagine the marketing stuff would just be too slow, whereas you've got to go straight in with the sales team, whether that's email, call, or similar.
Yeah, I think in a way as well, for me, if I saw an ad that was, let's say, alluding to the fact that there was some sort of legal dispute, it'd be a bit of a weird ad to see in my feed. Like, hey, we know you were just fined. Fancy a chat? Like, I think that'd be a bit of a weird one. But yeah, perhaps more from an outbound sales point of view.
Gotcha. Okay, let's hit up number 8.
Another negative one. So cybersecurity issue. This is a great one, right? So cybersecurity, huge market, big amounts of money to be had here. So again, a potential breach, a confirmed breach, or an order to enhance your protocol. If you think about the order to enhance your protocol, that means companies facing that mandate are going to have to demonstrate that they've taken the appropriate measures, which will involve tools, candidates, tools, people. And that's a great opportunity for someone in cybersecurity platform to reach out, or like I said, if a company's got a potential breach, great opportunity to start marketing as they potentially progress through that potential breach, confirmed breach, ordered to enhance protocol. Because I think companies are probably not going to invest in enhancing those protocols until they've been ordered to do so, because to a degree they haven't gone through the full investigation and been told this isn't good enough, this isn't good enough. So they kind of don't know what they need to necessarily enhance. But if you're in the cybersecurity space, and you market for that product or solution, or you sell it, you're going to have a very good understanding of what breach has been announced and therefore what they're going to require. And you think about it, they could be looking for help and assistance in that period. So just from a relationship building, if you can offer free help, that's going to be a great method of reach out there.
Is there a way, from your experience, Jamie, to make sure that the triggers that you're looking for, I'm going to tailor 5 or so triggers that are specifically relevant to my target market? Because some of these are great because they can be used in a bunch of industries. But have you seen a way where I don't know, we sell a SaaS solution to financial advisors, whatever, or it could be a different industry, but we're going to tailor, so we go after triggers that are hyper relevant to our ICPR ideal client profile? Because I'm guessing you can do it somehow.
Yeah, 100%. So let's just 100 plus triggers. Some of those are not going to be relevant at all to people in certain industries. Like funding rounds, that's pretty much across everyone, right? That's sure. Great. Companies got funding, but there are going to be some sort of hyper niche ones. Like if you're in cybersecurity, you would want to focus on a cybersecurity issue, but you're not going to want to look at a cybersecurity issue if you've got no relation to that from a tool perspective. So what we would find is that, let's just say, in terms of someone saying, how do I go about starting to track those triggers? There would either need to be some exploratory process during that phase, or the person who's been in that industry 1 to 2 years probably already knows the triggers that they might be looking for in terms of this announcement suggests that they're going to be an ICP. Some of the triggers could be a company, for example, announcing that they've signed a partnership, and they might have signed a partnership with a competitor. So that would be specific to a certain competitor, a trigger based on a keyword of a partnership or product launch, for example. Again, that could be pretty tightly tailored to a particular vertical.
Got it. Nice one. All right, let's wrap up 9 and 10 for the top triggers.
Cool. So number 9, financial results announcement, kind of links to the previous, or on the same sort of theme as the funding rounds and the IPOs. So funding announcements, good or bad, both of them are going to tell you something. So positive results, a company with increased profits is likely to be interested in BD. So they've seen rapid growth. They're going to want to expand the team. Great. Do you need a bigger, better CRM? Do you need a new lead generation tool? I think companies that announce positive results, you think of it like that's great, but you've also got that pressure that follows it of like, you've had a great year, you want to keep it up, and you might start to see that positive results, okay, we're plateauing slightly, is there anything more we can do? Let's get a new BD tool. Perhaps we're doing really great, we've expanded the team, but we want to increase efficiencies. So they might be looking at tools that help them increase efficiencies, all in one platform, like that sort of thing. Monetary loss, on the flip side, a company that's losing money is going to be looking to reevaluate its tech stack, for example, or resources. So if you're marketing an all-in-one platform, great. You can market with the position of consolidating expensive tech stacks down into one tool. From a sales or staffing and recruitment, monetary loss probably going to mean layoffs. So there could be candidates available. So that's from a staffing point of view. But yeah, monetary loss tells you just as much as a positive results announcement. Profit warning, pre-release announcement, dividend announcement. So dividends, you think if a company sharing wealth through dividend payouts is usually more established and stable. It's a good indicator that the company has very stable cash flow and they're generating steady profits. So if they got good cash flow and steady profits with dividends, they're going to have a sizable amount of budget to just test. Like they're always going to be looking for new tools to seeing how they can just take it to the next level. So yeah, financial results, how to track it. You got SEC filings, earning calls, industry news, Google alerts, company pages, press releases, that sort of thing.
Nice. Yeah. Financial based. I guess there's a lot, like you say, there's a lot you can take it depending on how good they are, how positive the results are, how negative they are, depending on how you want to flip it. That's relevant to your offer.
You take LinkedIn as an example. I know that there's a targeting sort of filter in LinkedIn where you can target based on company growth. So you can actually target companies who've seen negative growth as well on LinkedIn. So that's a great opportunity for, negative growth, like we said, money saving. So if one of your key value propositions is that you're 50% cheaper than the main competitor in the market and you're just as good, great. Like that's a great sort of little niche to target. Again, if a company has seen 20% plus growth and you market for a HR related platform or an efficiency based platform, again, fantastic little sort of targeting niche there.
Lovely job. And was that number 9 or number 10?
That was number 9. Number 10 is a negative one. So we're going to finish on a negative, unfortunately. But I think everyone's going to be very well versed in this one. So job loss and layoffs. No need for the explanation here, but a job loss trigger event is normally a bad sign for a company. Typically, cuts are only made when a company needs to realign its spend to avoid more critical scenarios. But like a mass layoff would suggest cost-cutting exercise. To the point previously, if one of your value props is financial, great. But it's worth remembering, like where headcount is cut, normally the company will need to improve its services and increase efficiencies, which is the play on like the targeting there. It's also certain companies may announce layoffs. I think Google announced layoffs in one division, but that doesn't mean as a company they're doing terribly. It just means that they're realigning their priorities. So quite often you'll find when that's the case, a company will announce that they're having layoffs, but they sort of say, okay, we're laying off in this area, but we're doubling down elsewhere. So there can be positive things to take from a job loss announcement. So it's important to sort of really read into the reasons behind that job loss. Is it mass job loss because of revenue, or is it that they had a 2 to 3 year project that's wrapping up, it wasn't as successful, so they're investing in other areas?
Nice one, man. Well, there's a decent list there, and there's a lot of those that I wasn't really expecting or hadn't really thought, and I'm sure the audience is the same, of when it comes to how you can actually use that data to your company's advantage. Because there's a lot of ways that you can spin it, isn't there, depending on whether you go positive, whether you go negative, whether you think about the impact it's having on the organization and so on. In terms of, we talked a little bit about sales outreach and a little bit about how you can use the data for marketing. Are there any unusual ways, either on a sales front or marketing front, that you've seen people utilize triggers that are perhaps a little bit lesser known or a bit different?
I tell you what, we had an interesting use case, let's call it, that someone was using various triggering events for podcast outreach. So great, we're on a podcast now. So what they were actually doing is monitoring for certain sales triggers, and then they were using that as the trigger for them to reach out and say, we notice X has happened. We would love to speak to you. We've had companies X, Y, and Z on previously, and we think you'd be great to share your expertise and knowledge in that area with our listeners. So you think about that key person change again. If someone's a key person change and they've had a promotion to a director of sales and you've got a sales podcast, great. They're going to have some fantastic success stories that they can sort of share and advice. So yeah, podcast outreach probably not the most obvious one, but some of the other 100+ triggers that we could go through, there are some really like small little ones that you might not think about, like rebranding. Companies will announce rebranding quite often.
Oh yeah.
Great opportunity for an agency to reach out. Great opportunity for anything sort of related to that. So yeah, there's some you can get really creative. I think an easy way to think about it is everyone knows what intent data is, right? So a signal that a person could be interested in your offering based on their behavior, their digital behavior. So think of sales triggers as pre-intent data. So when a triggering event fires for that company, whether that's a layoff or a financial results announcement, likely what's going to happen following that announcement is that people in that company are then going to start looking at products or services that are going to help them, with that trigger event, strategic objective, whatever you want to call it. So that's a nice way of thinking about it. Like, we all target on intent signals, right? We all reach out in sales from intent signals. Sales triggers are a wave of a flag to say, as a company, this has happened. I'm ripe for a conversation in this 3 to 6 month period.
It's almost like it's getting in early before that prospect might go to, especially in a B2B environment, like 2 or 3 vendors. Like, I don't know, do a Google search, check out a review site, click some kind of ad, whatever. They go to the website, request 3 demos and compare them. You're almost getting in early, aren't you?
Exactly. So a lot of those triggers, like you'd say the funding round announcements actually probably quite late, in terms of like a company's not going to announce its funding publicly until it's actually that's probably been 6 to 12 months in the making, right? So there's going to be certain triggers that would have fired in that 6 to 12 months prior to that announcement. And you think about today's world, whether it be marketing or sales, from a marketing perspective, what you're trying to do is get people aware of your brand as early as possible, build trust, build rapport, educate them for free. And then when it comes down to 300 days, or I don't know, say 200 days later, and they go, we are actually looking for a tool. Oh, wait, the company that I've been following and, reading great content of for the last 200 days, they do actually offer that. So yeah, I'm going to request a demo. And the same goes for sales. You can use the triggers as an opportunity for you to start building in the relationship. Now, we're not talking hard sales, like on the phone the day after, like we said. It's like, it gives you an indication that you want to keep them on your radar, and maybe from a social selling perspective, connect with them, start engaging with them on LinkedIn, having conversations on LinkedIn that don't necessarily relate to sales, sharing free advice or free leads or whatever it is with them. And they will come. They'll see you as a trustworthy rep or trustworthy company, and they will come to you.
Very much a nurture play, it sounds like, on some of the stuff.
Yeah,
nice
exactly.
one. Jamie, look, appreciate you coming on, sharing advice all around sales triggers and how to utilize those to your advantage. So with that, please do share more about how everyone tuning in can learn more about yourself, your company, and any way you want to send the audience.
Brilliant. I'll keep it nice and short and sweet. I think if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, it's just Jamie Pagan. I share stuff every single day to do with sales triggers, carousels, videos. We've got our own podcast as well on that topic. But if you want to find out more about sales triggers, then all you need to do is type in "what are sales triggers" on Google, and you will find Selligence on the first page. There's a great blog that talks about all 116 that we track personally, which is a really great place to start and sort of educate yourself. And we also have loads of videos sort of touching on each of those sales triggers if you want a bit more of a deep dive on each of you. So yeah, selligence.com, and there's tons of resources on there if you want to start looking at sales triggers. And of course, feel free to reach out and message me on LinkedIn just for advice, tips, any questions like that. Always happy to help.
Legend. Good to see the SEO game is strong as well. Always.
Yeah, I know we've had the old conversation on LinkedIn chat about sort of the SEO and stuff, and it's always nice when you're page one. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, man, for sure. And we'll put all of those links over in the show notes at businessgrowth.marketing. And with that, I want to thank you once again for coming on the show, Jamie.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. And as always, if you enjoyed today's episode, a quick rating or review on your podcast channel is appreciated. Or if you're on YouTube, a quick subscribe goes a long way. And with that, we'll catch you on the next one for more no BS B2B marketing tips to grow your business, grow your revenue. Catch you soon.